My younger brother, Liam, suddenly dropped to his knees in front of Mr. Thompson, clutching his leg and crying uncontrollably.
Uncle, please. Take me with you.
Mr. Thompson looked at me with a troubled expression.
Ethan, what do you think about this?
Sir, I really want the opportunity to study. If you take me in, I promise to be obedient.
His nose was red from crying, and his clear eyes looked up at Mr. Thompson with admiration. Mr. Thompson seemed a bit moved. Who wouldn't feel for a child eager to learn and seemingly well-behaved?
Are you planning to abandon your parents?
Mr. Thompson snapped back to reality, his face darkening instantly.
You have your own parents. Why would I need to adopt you?
Liam's face froze, and he argued.
But I have my brother. When I grow up, I'll come back and take you out of the mountains.
Mr. Thompson, I was actually taken to the mountains against my will. I want to find my biological parents. I miss them so much. Please take me with you.
Mr. Thompson was shocked and looked at me with sympathy.
You saved me. I owe you a favor.
My brother glared at me with resentment, as if blaming me for taking his chance away. He gritted his teeth.
My parents raised you for so many years, they won't let you go.
So he knew everything. He did it on purpose. I looked at Liam sharply, suppressing the overwhelming anger and frustration. In my past life, although I was often mistreated by my foster parents, Liam would secretly comfort me. I thought he was good and genuinely treated him as family.
Mr. Thompson, can you try talking to my foster parents?
Mr. Thompson tried to communicate with my foster parents, but they screamed at me hysterically, as if they wanted to devour me alive. My foster parents beat me mercilessly, cursing.
You ungrateful wretch! Raising you is worse than raising a dog. I tell you, even if you leave, you'll never escape the mountains.
I trembled in pain, my head splitting, vision going black, but I clung to Mr. Thompson's pant leg.
Don't worry about me. Just go, or they'll turn on you too.
These words made Mr. Thompson feel even more guilty.
How much money do you need to let him go?
My foster parents exchanged a glance and whispered among themselves for a while, signaling to Liam.
2 million. Or else.
My foster father kicked me hard as a threat. Liam suddenly knelt in front of our parents, crying.
Don't hit my brother, hit me instead.
Hey, you little brat, are you siding with outsiders now?
My foster father raised his fist, pretending to hit Liam, but my foster mother quickly stopped him.
The child is still young.
Mr. Thompson was trembling with anger.
1 million, but I want to take Liam too.
In the end, my foster parents reluctantly agreed to the condition. Mr. Thompson's servant carefully carried me into the car. Liam pretended to be concerned about my injuries, whispering in my ear.
Brother, I'll make sure you go back to the mountains.
I didn't respond to his words. From the beginning, my goal was to have Mr. Thompson take me away. Only then could I have a chance to turn my life around. Mr. Thompson took us home, where a slender, fair-skinned girl came out. He looked at her with a loving smile.
Emily, they will be your brothers from now on. Get along well.
Liam eagerly grabbed Emily's hand.
I'll treat you like my real sister from now on.
Watching this warm scene, Mr. Thompson gave a few simple instructions and went off to handle work. Emily frowned slightly, trying to pull her hand away, but Liam held on tightly.
Just arrived, shouldn't you wash your hands first?
I yanked Liam's wrist hard, making him wince in pain and reluctantly let go. Emily relaxed instantly, smiling at me with a nod. After a brief introduction to the household, the servant took us to our rooms. Liam was immediately dissatisfied with the modest room. He glared at the servant, shouting,
This room is too small. Are you looking down on me? Watch out, or I'll have you fired.
The servant apologized repeatedly. Watching this warm scene, Mr. Thompson gave a few simple instructions and left to handle work. Emily frowned slightly, trying to pull her hand away, but Liam held on tightly.
Just arrived, shouldn't you wash your hands first?
I yanked Liam's wrist hard, making him wince in pain and reluctantly let go. Emily relaxed instantly, smiling at me with a nod. After a brief introduction to the household, the servant took us to our rooms.
This room is too small. Are you looking down on me? Watch out, or I'll have you dismissed.
The servant apologized repeatedly. To this day, he still naively believes that everything in the Thompson family will belong to him in the future. In reality, being taken in by a wealthy family was already a great fortune. But Liam's intentions were not pure, and he squandered his good fortune. In just a few days, even the dogs in the courtyard would bark at him. On the other hand, the servants in the Thompson household were grateful to me, always ensuring I had the best of everything.
I suddenly remembered the burn scars on the servant and casually asked a few questions.
I've worked for the Thompson family for over 20 years and have never encountered anyone like him. Thanks to you. Otherwise, I would have lost my job.
Liam suddenly appeared from around the corner, shouting at me hysterically, his resentment almost palpable.
I'm also a member of the Thompson family. Why do you get to live so comfortably?
Looking at his foolish expression, I sighed deeply. In my past life, I too had to endure hardships and put on a brave face just to survive. Because of this, I couldn't lose my principles just because I was now living a better life. Unfortunately, Liam didn't understand this. Mr. Thompson arranged for us to attend school. The students at this school were all from wealthy families, each exuding a natural elegance.
I took a deep breath, trembling with excitement.
My brother doesn't know much. Please forgive him.
The students below chuckled slightly. I stared intently at the complex and tightly packed schedule, ignoring their mockery. Because this was the life I had dreamed of in my past life. My foster parents didn't allow me to study. I had to drop out after middle school and work tirelessly in the fields, which left me with many health issues. Sitting in the spacious classroom, listening to the teacher's diligent lectures, I was so excited I could hardly contain myself. To catch up with the other students as quickly as possible, I asked Mr. Thompson for additional private tutors. Spending my days studying from dawn to dusk, the teachers soon noticed my efforts. Liam, however, had a very different mindset from mine. Noble students were always polite and wouldn't bully others for the sake of their family's reputation. Of course, they also wouldn't refuse those who tried to ingratiate themselves.
Hey, move aside, you're blocking Michael's way.
I touched my nose and stepped aside for the young master. The class's attention was on us, with everyone whispering and watching the scene unfold.
A lower class person is always a lower class person, no sense at all.
What exactly is a lower class person? We are all equal, so why do you call someone a lower class person?
Ethan is right, we are all equal. Watch your mouth.
Though the students came from wealthy backgrounds, none dared to claim they were born superior. If they did, their elders would surely reprimand them harshly and disown them to save face.
Michael, didn't you say?
With a slap, Michael smirked and shook his hand.
Michael?
Please don't call me Michael, I can't bear it.
Watching this familiar scene, I couldn't help but stifle my laughter. After that incident, the way my classmates looked at me changed, and I gradually integrated into the class. On the surface, at least, everyone seemed to get along well.
Hey, come join us this weekend. It'll be fun.
A few wealthy classmates invited me out to play, and Mr. Thompson was quite pleased, casually handing me a black card.
Make some good friends and have fun.
Uncle, I want to go too. It's not fair.
It is fair.
Mr. Thompson listed our performances for the semester.
Stop wasting time on frivolous things. Do you think anyone will respect you like this?
Even though Mr. Thompson was not satisfied with Liam, he still hoped to set him on the right path. Unfortunately, Liam couldn't understand Mr. Thompson's good intentions. When I entered the entertainment club under the guidance of a waiter, Liam was bending over, pouring drinks for a few classmates. Liam's fawning expression made him look like he had a wagging tail behind him.
Doesn't he look like a dog?
Everyone burst into laughter. Liam, though angry, forced a laugh along with them. Michael motioned for me to sit next to him and then told Liam to pour me a drink.
Pour the drink.
Liam's face fell instantly. He gripped the bottle tightly, seemingly wishing he could smash it over my head.
What? You don't want to pour the drink. Get out if you don't.
Don't get angry. It's bad for your health. You should drink less too.
Hey, you dare to order me around?
Suddenly, I felt a chill and leaned to the side. The next second, cold liquor poured down from above, drenching Michael completely.
You son of a...
Michael grabbed a bottle from the table and smashed it over Liam's head. Liam let out a piercing scream as crimson liquid trickled down his face. I leaned back on the sofa, crossing my legs, and watched coldly. Liam curled up on the ground, clutching his bleeding head, crying.
Michael, I was trying to help you. I didn't mean to.
Are you an idiot? Can you tell good from bad? Your brother must be really unlucky to have you.
The club manager, accustomed to such scenes, bowed to the young masters and then called for emergency services for Liam.
Brother. I'm your brother. Can you really watch me get beaten like this?
Seeing his pitiful state, I suddenly stood up, grabbed a nearby bottle, and walked over to him. Michael lounged lazily on the sofa, waiting for my next move, a dark glint in his half-closed eyes.
Brother, I knew you were the best to me.
Liam's eyes were cold, but his dirty face showed a grateful smile. I slowly walked up to him and poured the liquor over his head.
Ah!
The alcohol stung his wounds, and Liam rolled on the ground in pain.
Good brother, alcohol is for disinfection. Bear with it.
The room erupted in laughter. Michael clutched his stomach, curling up on the sofa, laughing so hard he shook.
Don't do that. You've been drinking, and laughing too hard isn't good for your heart.
All right, I'll listen to you. You sure have a lot of concerns.
Our classmates watched our interaction, eyes wide with disbelief. Michael was a genuine prince of the capital, with a background far richer than anyone present. He had been pampered since childhood, and no one had ever dared to grab him by the neck. The reason I dared to do so was that I asked for nothing and treated him like an ordinary person. He enjoyed being around someone like me. Over time, our relationship grew closer. After Liam was sent to the hospital, I played with the young masters for a while but felt stifled and went out for some fresh air. After using the restroom, I heard a loud bang from the women's restroom next door, followed by muffled cries for help. The patrons of this club were all wealthy and influential. I didn't want to get involved, but then I saw the girl's face. Her cries were filled with despair as she struggled desperately against two men. For some reason, a sharp pain pierced my heart, making it hard to breathe. Alarms blared in my mind. Hurry and save her! Or you'll regret it for the rest of your life. My body moved instinctively, rushing into the bathroom and kicking the door open. Two men reeking of alcohol were tearing at a girl's clothes. I grabbed a broomstick nearby and struck down hard.
Who the hell are you?
The two men were instantly enraged and started fighting with me. Run! The girl, startled, scrambled out of the bathroom, crying for help. I clung to one man's leg, preventing him from going after the girl.
Who do you think you are, playing hero? I'm telling you, you're not getting out of here alive today.
I rolled on the ground, seizing the opportunity to get up and punch the man in the eye. He screamed in pain, his attacks becoming disorganized. Both men, weakened by years of indulgence, soon lay motionless on the bathroom floor. I slumped against the wall, covering my face, as I heard chaotic footsteps rushing towards us. My life was completely ruined.
Mr. Lee, Mr. Liu.
The manager looked at the two men lying on the ground in horror, his face growing paler by the second.
Quick, get them to the hospital.
After inquiring about what had happened, the manager patted my shoulder inside.
Tonight, have a good meal.
We exchanged a bitter smile. The girl, mentally shaken, was hurriedly taken away by her family. Who could continue having fun after such an incident? I sent a message to Michael and rushed home to tell Mr. Thompson about what had happened. Uncle, if they send someone after me, just hand me over.
After all this time, do you still not consider Emily and me as family?
It was precisely because I considered the Thompsons as family that I regretted my reckless actions. If those two families join forces, the Thompsons will be in trouble.
You're still a child. Leave this matter to the adults.
Mr. Thompson dismissed my idea and handed me over to the servant.
Take good care of him. This boy really knows how to cause trouble.
Seeing my dejected expression, Emily looked at me gently and said softly,
Actually, Dad has long considered you his own child.
I was taken aback, looking at my gradually softening hands, feeling a moment of disorientation. The Thompsons had indeed taken good care of me. I couldn't help but sigh. Everyone here is so kind. Emily covered her face, stifling a laugh, her shoulders shaking. Just as I had anticipated, people from the Liu and John families came to demand that the Thompsons hand me over. The visitors, full of aggression, questioned.
He's just an adopted son. Surely Mr. Thompson wouldn't be reluctant to part with him.
Mr. Thompson's expression remained unchanged.
Ethan's actions were indeed inappropriate. I'll personally bring him to apologize another day. You should leave for now.
A tall man, nearly 2 meters in height, stepped out of the car. He slowly approached Mr. Thompson, his fists making cracking sounds. Mr. Thompson showed no fear, clapping his hands as a group of bodyguards rushed over to protect him.
The Thompson family's influence in this city is limited. Don't make a decision you'll regret for the rest of your life.
For a moment, everyone stood frozen in place. Through Emily, I learned just how much trouble I had caused. The Liu and John families had been intermarrying for generations, making them inseparable and highly influential in the business world. If they joined forces against the Thompsons, the family would suffer greatly. Just as I was about to step forward, several black cars pulled up at the Thompson residence.
Is that the Smith family?
Upon seeing the family crest on the car, everyone's expressions grew serious.
Your Thompson family has offended such a powerful figure? It looks like your days are numbered.
Mr. Thompson's face turned ashen, and the entire Thompson family found themselves in a dire situation. A servant respectfully opened the car door, and out stepped a man in a well-tailored suit. The middle-aged man exuded an aura of authority and intimidation. His sharp gaze swept around before finally settling on me.
We're here today to personally thank Mr. Ethan.
John and Michael immediately collapsed to the ground, trembling as they stammered.
That girl is the only princess of the Smith family?
Suddenly, the phones of John and Michael rang simultaneously. Upon answering, they were met with despairing voices from the other end.
Why is the Smith family attacking our businesses? It's over, everything is over now.
In just one night, the John and Michael families didn't even have the chance to declare bankruptcy. All their assets were swallowed up by the Smith family, leaving them with nothing. To express his gratitude, Mr. Smith personally discussed cooperation with Mr. Thompson. In no time, the Thompson family officially entered the circles of high society. I always felt an inexplicable closeness to the Smith family. It dawned on me. Could this be the poor's longing for wealth?
How is your daughter doing?
She's much better now. She mentioned you and would like to invite you to visit the Smith family.
I took it as a polite gesture and nodded casually, agreeing. Due to the involvement of the Smith family's princess, the cooperation between the Smith and Thompson families was kept under wraps. Everyone who knew the truth signed an S-level confidentiality agreement. With the Thompson family safe and sound, my life returned to normal, and the not-so-bright Liam was discharged from the hospital. The school held a final exam, and I scored first in the grade, leaving the second place 20 points behind. When the teacher announced the results, Liam immediately stood up, his face red with anger.
Cheating! It must be cheating. How could someone who just enrolled 3 months ago score such high marks?
My classmates looked at me with suspicion. Michael slammed his desk and shouted coldly.
What do you mean? Do you think my friend cheated?
Everyone instantly fell silent, but their eyes still showed disbelief. I quickly held him back and said to the teacher,
Since everyone doubts it, let's have another test.
The teacher observed everyone's reactions and slowly spoke.
Does anyone have any objections?
Then, the teacher took me to the office. Under the watchful eyes of all the teachers and the surveillance cameras, I smoothly completed the test. Even in horseback riding and archery, I received high praise from the teachers. After the results were announced again, none of the dissatisfied teachers or students had any more complaints. Liam, however, grabbed my collar, his eyes red and wild.
You must have bribed the teachers!
The teacher's face changed dramatically, completely igniting his anger.
Do you think Ethan bribed all the teachers and students? Do you not trust the school or our integrity?
This school had strict requirements for teachers, offering high salaries but prohibiting them from accepting bribes. If caught, the teacher's certification would be revoked for life, and they would be fined $1 million. The school administration gave Liam a major demerit for disrupting the school environment and ordered him to reflect at home for 2 weeks. Liam's actions brought disgrace to the Thompson family, who had adopted him. Mr. Thompson grew increasingly cold towards him. One day at dinner, he glanced at Liam coldly.
When you turn 18, you will leave the Thompson family.
Liam's face turned pale, and he cried loudly, louder than a pig being slaughtered. He cried with snot and tears all over his face, clinging to Mr. Thompson's trousers.
Uncle, please give me another chance. I promise I won't cause any more trouble.
Mr. Thompson sighed wearily and put down his utensils heavily.
Leave now or after graduation, your choice.
Liam, like a chicken with its neck wrung, immediately fell silent. After that, in an attempt to redeem himself, he even took over the servant's duties, cleaning the house and almost burning down the kitchen while cooking. He brought out a few burnt dishes, looking at Emily with hopeful eyes.
Sister, try a bite. It's really good.
Emily frowned, her lips tightly pressed together, not touching the food on the table. Seeing this, Liam used his chopsticks to pick up a few charred leaves for her.
Hurry up and eat. It won't taste good if it gets cold.
Watching the warm scene, Mr. Thompson gave a few simple instructions and went off to handle work. Emily frowned slightly, trying to pull her hand away, but Liam held on tightly.
Just arrived. Shouldn't you wash your hands first?
I yanked Liam's wrist hard, making him wince in pain and let go reluctantly. Emily relaxed instantly, smiling at me with a nod. After a brief introduction to the household, the servant took us to our rooms.
This room is too small. Are you looking down on me? Watch out, or I'll have you dismissed.
The servant apologized repeatedly. My heart pounded, and I was sweating with nervousness. I had an unbelievable premonition, almost thinking I was going mad.
You are my child.
I laughed dryly and waved my hand.
That's impossible.
The girl beside me burst into tears and suddenly threw herself at me. Instinctively, I held her in my arms.
You and she are fraternal twins, connected by a special bond. Earlier, she suddenly said she wanted to go to a club, and at that moment, you unhesitatingly saved her.
The girl cried so much that her eyes were swollen, soaking my shoulder. I awkwardly patted her back. Mr. Smith watched our interaction and couldn't help but laugh.
People at that club are either wealthy or powerful, and you're just an adopted child of the Thompson family. What drove you to save her?
Clutching my chest, I thought of that scene, my vision darkening, and my heart aching so much I could hardly breathe.
Brother.
I was instantly jolted awake. Seeing the girl's worried expression, I held her tightly and instinctively said,
I'll protect you, don't be afraid.
Mr. Smith directly produced a paternity test and firmly stated,
You are my son.
He gave me a night to process this information and sent me back to the Thompson household. I rubbed my head vigorously, still unable to shake off the shock. Mr. Thompson was away at a conference and hadn't returned yet. I planned to tell my sister about this first, but the servant said she wasn't feeling well and had gone to bed early. Looking at the tightly closed door, I hesitated and knocked.
Sis.
Suddenly, I felt a slight vibration under my feet. Growing up in the mountains, I had a lot of experience avoiding wild animal attacks. By sensing their footsteps, I had evaded danger time and again. I lay on the ground, and the sound became clearer. I was sure Emily wasn't asleep. But despite calling out for a long time, she still didn't open the door. Something was wrong.
Sis, if you're not feeling well, just rest. I'll head back to my room.
I counted to 1 in my mind, then suddenly grabbed a nearby chair and smashed it against the door. With a kick, the door burst open. The servants, hearing the commotion, looked at me in shock and rushed over, filled with anger.
Stay back.
I gritted my teeth, looking at the scene inside the room, wishing I could immediately deal with the person in front of me. Emily lay unconscious on the bed, and Liam's hand was at her collar. Seeing me break in, he looked at me in terror. My mind went blank with rage, and I grabbed the broken chair leg, hitting him in the face several times.
Brother, I was wrong.
He cried and struggled, blood pouring from his mouth along with a few teeth.
Your right hand, right?
I sneered coldly, smashing his arm until it was a mangled mess. The servants, who had been with the family for over a decade, quickly understood what had happened when they saw me dragging Liam out of Emily's room. Several servants rushed to stop me from continuing the assault.
Young master, you can't hit him anymore.
By then, his limbs were already a bloody mess. If the servants hadn't held me back, I might have ended him right there. Liam's chest heaved violently, tears and snot streaming down his face.
Help me.
The butler sighed in relief and approvingly said,
Leave him alive for Mr. Thompson to deal with.
I cast a sinister glance at everyone.
Butler, investigate. Don't let anyone leave this house.
Before Emily woke up, I had a maid check on her condition.
If Emily asks, just say she's unwell. Don't let her know about Liam, or there will be consequences.
The servants, who had never seen me angry before, were all too scared to make a sound. Mr. Thompson rushed home, and we went to the study together.
How is Emily?
Don't worry, she just fell asleep. He didn't get the chance to do anything.
I felt a wave of relief. If I had been a few minutes later, Liam might have succeeded. Mr. Thompson suddenly burst into tears, his eyes bloodshot and his face contorted with rage.
I want him gone.
I comforted him for a long time before he finally calmed down.
This time, you did well. Ethan, I sincerely thank you. Thank you for saving Emily's life.
Mr. Thompson slowly bowed to me, and I was furious, quickly straightening his back.
You are my father, she is my sister. There's no need for such formalities among family.
Seeing my angry expression, he smiled with relief. I suddenly remembered the Smith family and briefly explained my background.
I finally have a son. How can this be?
What's the big deal? Just think of it as having two fathers.
Ah, this world is truly strange. I now have two fathers, a sister, and a younger sister. No one could be happier than me. After a brief conversation, Mr. Thompson hurried off to see Liam. When I saw him again, his clothes were stained, and he looked extremely grim.
Emily is awake.
Mr. Thompson quickly changed into clean clothes. Then, I followed him to Emily's room. She was still groggy, and I quickly spoke up, complaining.
Sis, you almost scared me to death.
You were so anxious, you broke down the door. You could have just used the key.
Mr. Thompson and I exchanged a relieved glance. Liam wasn't gone, he was sent back to the mountains, but in reality, he was confined to a mental institution. His tongue was shortened, and his limbs were severed. He was tied to a bed all day, receiving treatment. Seeing his suffering, I laughed until I cried. This was karma. Liam's parents, unable to reach him, rushed to the capital.
Ethan, you beast. How could you do this to your brother?
But times had changed. I clapped my hands, and several plainclothes bodyguards immediately subdued them.
If you care so much about Liam, then stay with him forever.
With just a word, my men understood my meaning. They were treated the same way, their limbs broken, and they were permanently confined to the mental institution. I was officially recognized by the Smith family and added to their family register.
I thought I'd be the one to lean on you, but it turns out I need to lean on you.
Mutual support.
The Wang family, though not as prominent as the Smith family, was still one of the top 4 families in the capital. How bad could it be? Years later, I successfully passed the family trials and became the next heir of the Smith family. My relationship with Emily seemed to naturally progress, and the Smith family didn't care about arranged marriages. As long as the girl had good character, everyone would accept her.
See, my father is still my father.
Emily laughed heartily and playfully punched me.
Hey, don't get too excited. Be careful with the baby.